Thanks for watching this video. My name is Mike Stolberger and I'm Director of Elections for Blue Earth County. We wanted to take just a few minutes here to introduce everyone to the equipment that we use in our elections office and in our polling places on election days. This video will introduce you to the equipment we use, and we have other videos that actually walk our election judges through how that equipment is set up and then taken down when the election night has concluded. Let's start with actually looking at the 4 pieces of equipment that are involved in our elections. We'll spend more time talking about each of these in detail. However, I'll just introduce the names now. The DS450 is our high-speed, high-capacity processor. We use that to tabulate all of our early votes. That would be through the absentee voting process or the mail balloting process. We also use the DS200. That is a smaller tabulator. That's used in all of our polling places on election day. That allows voters to cast their ballots and have it be counted so that we can have results for you more quickly on election night. We also use the Omni Ballot. That is our assisted voting device. Any voter can use that. However, it is designed to allow a voter who may have issues holding a pen or needing a ballot read to them, allow them to vote in a very independent fashion. And last but not least, we use our poll pads. Those are our check-in devices or election day registration devices. The voter checks in on that device, or if they are new to that precinct and need to register, the poll pads prompt our election judges to walk through the election day registration process. Again, we'll talk about all of those pieces of equipment in more detail as we move through the rest of this presentation. Let's talk a little bit about all of our equipment in general. First, I want to point out a fact that all of the equipment that's used in Blue Earth County and across the state of Minnesota must be certified. It's certified at the federal level before it gets certified at the state level. Once the state has certified the equipment, county and city elections officials can select what equipment they wish to use in the polling places and in their offices. The equipment that we use in the polling places, what we're talking about today, and many other counties use that as well. We test all of the equipment prior to the election day deployment or use in our offices, and then we also conduct a randomized audit of the results of the election equipment after the votes have been tabulated and as they get certified to become the official record for each election. It's also really important to note that all of the equipment goes through a public accuracy test prior to being deployed on election day, and the public is welcome to attend that test where we actually run ballots through the equipment and allow people to see that it is tabulating those results correctly and that our Omni Ballot, our assisted voting device, is working well. The last fact I want to point out is that all of the equipment in Blue Earth County and across the state of Minnesota has an auditable paper ballot trail or an auditable paper trail of some sort. I'll talk about what that means as we talk about each individual piece of equipment. I also want to quickly dispel a myth, a rumor that's out there and that you may have heard of. No equipment in Blue Earth County connects to the internet if it's part of tabulating results. I'll explain what that means when we talk about our DS450, our high-speed processing piece of equipment, or our DS200, the precinct level tabulators. But the important thing to know about that equipment is that it never connects to the internet. We don't modem in results. We don't transmit data through any sort of connections on those devices. All of those devices are hardened and they receive all of their updates through secure media in our elections offices. That's an important fact that some folks don't know about our equipment. With that background, now let's dive into the specific equipment that we are using. I started out with the DS450. The DS450, again, is our high-speed, high-capacity scanner. And what it does is it reads large volumes of ballots and tabulates those results. Remember, that's the equipment that tabulates anybody who votes by mail or votes through the early absentee process. That would also result in using secrecy envelopes and voting prior to election day. That piece of equipment allows us to separate batches of ballots by precinct so that we make sure that we're tabulating the right results at the right time. It again creates an audit trail. It records steps that are taken on the equipment so that we can recreate that if would be necessary. It also makes sure that voters are casting their ballots appropriately, meaning that they're not crossing over if it's a primary election or they're not filling in too many ovals if they're only allowed to select 1 or maybe 2 candidates for a school board race or something like that. Another feature about that equipment that I'll share with you is that that equipment does not connect to the internet, as I mentioned. And then we also make sure that we're always having 2 individuals in our office, election judges or election staff, involved in the operation, the setup, and the testing of that equipment. All right, as we move away from that equipment, we'll talk about the mini version of that equipment. This piece of equipment is our DS200, and this is a tabulator or a scanner that is at the polling place on election day. Voters will feed their ballot into the machine, and that's what actually will tabulate or count those results, and that allows us to report those results to the public much more quickly on election night. Again, you've heard me say before, that piece of equipment is not connected to the internet. The only connection that occurs on election day is to a power source so that we can make sure that it stays fully operational. It does have a backup in there, and so we don't even have to worry about that power source, but we do that as a secondary measure. Another great feature about our DS200 is that when it's active and there's a ballot cast, it will have a screen that will tell whether or not that ballot's been accepted. It also keeps a running tally of votes so that we know how many ballots have been cast on election day. And then the best feature of that screen is that it'll actually prompt a voter if they've filled in too many ovals, if they've crossed over, or if there's another reason that ballot can't be accepted. Because these are deployed to precincts, they only accept ballots that are issued for that precinct, so we don't have to worry about ballots coming from other locations. And then all of the elections equipment has backups or fail-safes. The fail-safe for this is if we would lose power or there'd be something catastrophic occurring with this, we do have an emergency compartment where ballots can still be cast, brought back to our office to be tabulated if necessary. So again, that's deployed in all of our precincts. They were first used in Blue Earth County in 2020. They are used across the state of Minnesota in many counties. Not all counties, but many counties have selected that piece of equipment for their tabulating device. It comes from Elections System and Software, which is a company based out of Omaha, Nebraska. I do believe the next piece of equipment that we want to talk about is our assisted voting device. This is called the Omni Ballot. And what the Omni Ballot does is it allows any voter to vote independently. Some voters may have trouble hearing or seeing, or they want the ballot to be read to them in a larger font, or they might just have dexterity issues where they can't hold a pen to fill in the ovals. This Omni Ballot allows the voter to do that. They check in just like any other voter. They're issued their ballot, and then that ballot gets scanned into the Omni Ballot, where the voter can choose how they wish to vote, whether or not they want to use the touch screen so that they can see something larger, whether or not they want to use a navigation pad to allow them to actually feel Braille and understand how to process the ballot directly, or they also have some other options if they have other tools that help them operate their ballot and fill in their ballot independently. Once the voter has made their selections, they're able to actually print their choices onto their ballot, and then it is cast into the tabulator just like any other ballot. Again, this piece of equipment is in every polling place. It's available for any voter to use, and it really does allow that voter to vote independently if that's how they wish to vote on election day. This piece of equipment is manufactured by Democracy Live. It is supported and built locally, and it is used in many counties in Minnesota as well. It's a new piece of equipment. It was new to Blue Earth County in 2020, and it's new to many counties across the state of Minnesota in 2022. The last piece of equipment we want to talk about that will be interacted with by every voter on election day is our poll pad. Our poll pad is our electronic roster. It's how voters check in, and it's how voters register on election day if they are not pre-registered. The poll pad allows the voters' record to be pulled up to make sure they haven't voted in that election. It also makes sure that the voter is eligible to vote, and it also drives questions for our election judges to ask to make sure that that voter is eligible to vote and is going to be able to cast a ballot legally in the polling place. If a voter needs to register on election day, the poll pad helps our election judges out immensely. It allows them to ask the right questions, correct the right information, and verify that that voter is in the right location and is eligible to vote before they process that election day registration. One last thing I'll share about the poll pad in terms of how it operates is that the poll pad does connect to other devices in the polling place to make sure a voter doesn't try to check in twice. And it also does receive updates and pushes information back to the elections office computers through secure connections only for purposes of updating who has voted and not voted to make sure that that person didn't cast an absentee ballot that arrived in the mail and then try to vote on election day as well. There is an audit or a paper record for every transaction that occurs when a voter checks in or registers, and so we keep track of all of those as an official record. And then we also have the ability to back up and use paper methodologies for all of this equipment if it wouldn't work for some reason on election day. The poll pads come out of St. Louis, Missouri. The company is called Knowing, and they are used across the country. There are many, many states that have implemented this roster technology from Knowing. And there are also many, many counties across the state of Minnesota that have used this technology. Blue Earth County has used this in some fashion since 2018. 2020, we rolled it out countywide, and our election judges and our election staff love the efficiency and the security that that brings to the election day registration and the voter check-in process. Well, all right, folks, that is an introduction to our equipment. As I mentioned, you can view additional videos on how the equipment actually operates, how it gets set up. Those videos are geared to our election judges, but they're available on our website as well. And the slides that represent today's presentation and our other election judge training presentations are also on our website. The last thing I'll mention is that if you have any questions at all about our equipment, any concerns, anything that you'd like to learn more about it, feel free to contact our office either through our email address that's on the screen, or you can call our elections office at 507-304-4341. Thank you.